It's time for Turd Talk.
Hello and welcome to Turd Talks. I'm your host Musty. With me, as always, my co-host Brittany.
Hello.
Welcome. Good to see you. Good to see us. Episode 7 this week of Turd Talks with Musty and Brittany.
7 already?
7 already.
7 already.
We're in 7th heaven. It's a good film.
You're gonna hear my kid in the background. I apologize ahead of time.
Oh, you might hear my wife, my kid. I'm not sure. My dog. But it happens. Um, so a couple topics this week that I threw hashtags near-death experiences. Talk a little bit on that. We'll see. Chad has anything input to put in towards that, and might look a little bit up to see if there's any video um, we can pull up on that, as well as I just threw this in here real quick. I didn't really mention it to you, Brittany, but solar flares. Talk about solar flares as well.
Solar flares.
Solar flares, yes. We'll touch base a little bit on that.
Remind me, I have a funny story about I wouldn't say a shooting star, but maybe a meteor.
Okay.
I want to talk about that.
All right. Well, let's go ahead.
So,
Let's talk.
have you ever had a near-death experience?
I
Or do you know anyone that has?
I don't think personally that I have. I mean, when I was younger, I guess this is some kind of different, but my grandparents would tell me about. I would tell them stories of my past life. Um,
Oh, I remember you telling me
hmm
something like that.
So I would tell them about being a. I think there's one I would talk about being a pilot in the Air Force kind of thing or something like that, maybe during the war. I'm not 100% sure because I was really really young, but I don't really remember. I just remember them telling me about it.
So you
So
don't remember
I don't
any
remember.
details?
No details. Yeah, I wish I did. It would be nice, but there is lots of evidence or such on the kids or a certain age once they hit a certain, under a certain age that would report such stories of past life experiences and such.
I've experienced, deja vu.
I've definitely felt deja vu before.
Well,
Quite
there
a.
was this one time a few years ago, and it freaked me out.
Hmm.
I've experienced deja vu where you're like, I've been here, I've done this, I've experienced this exact same thing before,
Right.
same people, same convo. But one day, I experienced deja vu for 45 minutes almost. I
Wow.
couldn't get out of it for like 40 something minutes.
Wow.
And it freaked me out. Like, it reminded me of like Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
I walked into my kitchen and I'm like, I've already walked in here.
Hmm.
I knew everything that was going to happen, to a conversation, to a kid, to it. If it was wild, it actually scared me.
Mm. And it kind of makes you wonder, like, is it something to do with like a lot of people as they get older, they start to their mind goes or what have you, they'll develop certain, you know, it'll be like with my grandfather, he developed dementia as he got older, and he passed since, but um, just saying, like, almost in a sense that our lives, there's so many things that are such repetitive, like you said, walking into the kitchen and like making dinner or doing the dishes or what have you. It's such a repetitive thing that you've done so many times that it kind of triggers something like that, and you're almost confused, sort of, in a sense.
Yeah, I find it really. Number one, I'm so sorry to hear that. Like, that's to me one of the most horrible things that can happen to a person is
Mm,
to get, Alzheimer's or
right.
dementia, and you're just watching this person deteriorate with every memory, or it's like they go backwards. That's what
Yeah.
I've heard, right?
Yeah.
Like the person they known the longest, or they're the ones they remember the most. Is that how it works? Like it goes in reverse?
Yeah, it's different for different people, I would assume. But like with my grandfather, he lived in BC, so I didn't really see him that much. But um, I don't know really to how bad and extent it got. I just know that he did have developed dementia. That would have been years ago now. So you touch base with people
I know
too,
right
like,
before my dad died, he experienced it.
mm,
Like I don't know if it's because he was dying or it was toxic, or but like he growing up I looked like my daddy, and then since I've gotten older I look exactly like my mother, and both of them are deceased. Like my mom has friends, like they can't even be around me. They're like, you talk like her, you sound like her, you look like her. So when my dad was dying, I walked in hospice, and he just starts crying, and he's like, Lisa. Of course, that was my mother. She passed
right.
away before him, but he didn't know who I was.
Hmm.
He thought I was my mom.
Yeah, that'll happen as well. That'll happen. I mean, my grandmother, she doesn't mean to. She just gets the names confused sometimes. But I'll get called Bill, Ted. Like I'll be called everything under the sun. She'll be like, "Oh, wait, wait," and then she'll say my name, and it's just funny.
But you said the word trigger a minute ago. It also, I find it funny that a certain like smell
Hmm.
can trigger like a memory or a childhood memory.
Hmm. I definitely
Is
like
there
the.
anything that
Hmm.
you like something that
There's
you've ever
just
smelled and it
th-
made you
there's a
remember?
certain smell, and I don't know exactly what it is per se, but it has a bit of like a fire, like a campy fire smell to it, mixed in with, I don't know. There's just a smell, and it reminds me of my grandmother's house. They had a wood stove, so it's kind of like if you walk into a home that's got a wood stove,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a certain smell. Like not every home smells the same, but I don't know. It's just something about the smell of the house mixed with the smell of the wood stove, and it gives me definitely memories of my grandparents' house, and I have gotten it before, like just a very few
Out of nowhere.
times out of nowhere, a few times, and like randomly, like I'll walk into someone's house or something, and it reminds me of it, and it's like, whoa, kind of weird.
Mine would be tobacco,
Tobacco,
or sorry, tobacco.
yeah.
I remember being in the barns as a kid. So like me going and moving to the country,
Mm.
and you'll be driving by and you smell it, and it just reminds me of being a kid again.
Yeah, or certain times I'll get a whiff of like an old car, like say a 70s or a muscle car would drive by and rip by, and you get the smell of that exhaust. It reminded me of being younger, going for drives with my old man, and because he always had a nice muscle car. He had like a Mercury Zephyr or like a
Hmm.
different cars, and they were always really nice cars with like, you know. So it just would remind me of that. Oh, let's
Every
go
time
visit.
I smell a turd, I think about Richie.
There you go. So a little shout out to chat real quick. We got Mr. Godfather. We got Carrie. Hey, Carrie. Hi, nice to see you. Brittany's in there. Ghost. Good to see you, Ghost.
Ghost just popped in. We didn't
Ghost is
even
in
see
as
him
well.
coming. Get it?
Ooh, didn't even see him coming. Didn't even see it.
He didn't see it.
So let's
There's
see.
also bad smells, like um, my ex-husband,
Hmm.
after he did a tour, his second tour in Iraq.
Yep.
Um, he came home, and what would trigger him was the smell of diesel,
Okay.
because there was so much
Makes
diesel. I
sense.
mean, but like it would trigger, like, and he would just stand there for a minute, like
Hmm.
he's
Out
having a
of sorts.
flashback.
I gotta see him.
I've also, I know y'all already probably think I'm crazy, but I haven't, I mean, I had a near death experience a few times. where I'm like, I should have been dead. I don't see how I'm alive. My husband now,
There's Diamond and
he
Brian as
was
well. Sorry.
Diamond and Brian. Hi.
Sorry to cut you off. In chat, we're talking about near-death experiences, so you can definitely drop them in chat as well if you would like. We're definitely on the topic right now of near-death experiences. Go ahead, Brittany.
Um, I was at home and the phone rang and I didn't recognize the number, but I still answered it. I was like, hello. And he was like, ma'am. And when you hear that, you're like, oh, no. Like something's wrong.
Right.
He's like, this is Officer so-and-so. I believe so-and-so. He's been in a wreck. And I'm like, what? He's like, he's in the EMS now. And he said, ma'am. I was like, yeah. He's like, the officer, you tell, is choked up on the phone. He said, I thought I was going to pull a dead body out of the car. He said, and somehow he crawled out the back and was, busted open real bad, his face, because he had reached down to get his beanie and had crossed over onto oncoming traffic and hit a car head on. And then bounced and hit a concrete wall. TB did. Wow. And the officer was like, I just knew. He said, I watched the whole accident. I was driving behind him a few cars back. He's like, I just knew. There's no way this person's alive in this car. He said, and he somehow crawls out the back window and he's more concerned for everybody else. He's the one that's bleeding. They're like, just sit down. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, it wasn't like a week.
It'll be adrenaline rush for sure. Yeah.
It wasn't until like a week later I got to see the car. Musty. The engine of our car has smashed the front seat, driver's seat, in the middle. Like, there's no way. I'm like, how did the engine not be in your lap? He was like, I don't know. Just, I was in the back seat all of a sudden and it could crawl out.
Yeah, that's crazy. And yeah, something happened to kind of force him into the back seat.
And then I've experienced, I don't care what anybody thinks. I know what I experienced. Like, God didn't like take me to hell where I could physically see it, but he let me experience how it feels to be in hell. And that's probably, for me, the wildest thing I've ever experienced.
Okay. Wow.
And it was like I was sitting outside. It was late at night. I was by myself, sitting in the rocking chair, just, chilling.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like all of a sudden I went into like this weird trance-like thing. And I couldn't see, like, even with my eyes open, it was black. And I just sat in the chair. I was kind of just frozen to it. And all of a sudden I could experience this place of complete hopelessness. Like, if you ever think that you've been hopeless in your life, compared to nothing to the way I was feeling, I could feel this sadness that, I mean, I've buried my parents. I've been cheated on, divorced. I've been hurt in physical ways, emotional. I have never experienced that type of sadness in my life. And it's like I knew it was forever. But the worst part about it was, the only way I can experience it and explain it, the way I experienced to explain it, what I experienced, was there was no love whatsoever. Like, even though you walk this earth and you might not have a relationship with God or Jesus, you feel love more than you think. You feel love because he's still trying to reach. But once you get to that point of, eternally without God, there's no love, because God is love. More than people realize. That's who he is. And I felt that. I felt what it felt like in my very being of never knowing what love was again by anybody or anything. And it is the darkest place I've ever went to or experienced. And then right after that, he's so good. He let me experience the next day when I woke up and sat back outside. It was daytime. He let me experience his love, and you can feel it in every cell in your body. It's weird. You could feel it pump through your veins.
Hmm.
And all I could do was just cry. Like I could feel him in every strand of hair. It's an amazing experience. And I wonder if I don't know if anybody else has experienced that. But I'm glad. I mean, the hell part it wasn't fun at all. Like,
No.
that's why I have such a fear of I don't want to go there.
No.
I don't want to feel like, I know people talk about the burning and this, but I'm talking about that feeling of, like when your kid smiles and reaches up to you to like for you to pick them up. You don't realize how much love is coming between the two of you, and to never feel it again, that's the saddest, darkest place to ever be in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Where's your Britt? That's bad.
I mean, how would you feel if you never experienced love again from anything or anyone?
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, that would be really bad.
That really is hell.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Yeah.
Does anybody in the chat, if you've had a near-death experience, put like a number 1 or something?
Yeah,
I'm
let's
not like this psycho here. Help me out, please, Turds.
Yeah, help
Jeez.
up right now. What about ghostly experiences? Do you have anything on a ghostly type experience? Because I might have a little bit of something. So I think I'll take the.
I guess, Lord, I want to thank you for everything you've done and all the things I know you will do, Lord. And I'm gonna do what you told me to do, and just to speak truth no matter what, don't care about what anybody thinks of you. That's what he told me. And thank you in Jesus' name, amen. Okay, we're going to talk ghosts. If you want to talk ghosts, I will be 100% transparent with you. And I'm probably going to get a lot of hate from this.
Okay.
But if you really want to know, I'll tell you. Ever since I was born, I could see dead people. Okay? Something
like Sixth Sense.
Yes. And it was normal for me.
Mm-hmm.
My parents knew, my sister knew. My parents were like, don't tell anyone because they're going to think you're crazy. And I could see people's dead loved ones that I've never met, like they weren't around, and I could explain them to a T and all this stuff. And I could see angels and demonic things. And it wasn't till about, let's say 5 years ago, I was playing Xbox with a buddy of mine that I played with for about 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I don't tell nobody. And I had seen a young girl walk past me in the living room, and it startled me, and I yelled.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, "Are you all right?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Who was, what?" And I was like, "I just got scared. Someone walked past me," not thinking. He was like, ain't they at work and he at school and blah, blah, blah." And I was like, "I got to tell you something." So I told him. And he got silent, and he says, "Wait a minute. I thought you were a Christian." And I was like, "I am." He says, "In the Bible, necromancy, talking to the dead, communicating with the dead, he said is a sin." And I never thought about it. So then I started thinking about it.
Okay.
Like my family knew that I could do that.
Right.
So I started really praying about it and talking to God about it. And at the time, I had 2 ghosts in my house, and one I named Bob. and there was a young girl. There was like a little girl, and all she did was cry all the time. And she would open closed doors to like scare people. And Bob would say your name when nobody's around. Like that's what he did all the time. And I could see him. And my kids could actually not really see them, but was getting scared because they were like throwing stuff in the room, or
All right.
my daughter would run in the room and be like, Mom, I keep hearing a girl cry outside my door. And I've never even said nothing to her. So once I really started seeking the Lord about, these are the things I see. It's not something I've done. It's not like I've asked for some like weird witchcraft stuff, whatever.
Mm,
I've been able to do this since I was born, like since I can remember. Well, when I realized what God was showing me, that they're not ghosts, they're called familiar spirits. And they know things, or it's someone that acts like a deceased loved one, or they're actually demonic.
okay.
And everything changed for me because I started praying in my house when I ran into Bob again. And I was like, I know what you are in Jesus' name, like that. Bob wasn't Bob no more, bro. Bob didn't look human no more.
Mm,
Bob completely changed to this demonic creature looking thing. And I felt horrible because my children were terrified to sleep.
hmm
And I'm like, it's all right. It's all right. It's just a ghost. And I feel horrible all them years that they're like, Mom, they're pulling the blankets off of me. They're scaring me. So you call them ghosts. I call them something else now.
Okay. Fair enough.
Does that make sense?
Fair enough.
So
That's
I
a.
tend to like
Mm,
here was the question here's the problem I always had, okay? My parents were God-fearing, blood-bought, born-again disciples of Jesus Christ.
mm,
And they died. How come I couldn't see them?
right.
I've always wanted, I could see this person's love, I could see this person. Why can't I see my parents? It didn't make sense to me. And I was
Mm,
like, oh, but they're not going to be walking around here. But I did have a dream for my mother when she died. And she looked probably in her, like, she had to look 30, 33 years old. Excuse me, healthy. And I remember she came to me talking about, you know, I forgot what she
here, I'm gonna pull
said.
up.
But I remember the colors after my mom died, wherever she was, and she came and visited me in a dream. The colors that was illuminating
Excuse me.
around her is colors I've never seen before. And
Wow.
it's hard to explain because you think of like a Crayola crayon box.
hmm
You think of all the paint. We've come up with every color you can think of. But these colors, these were heavenly color. I've never seen them before. And they were breathtaking.
Well,
And that's
apparently,
the only time I've seen my mom.
yeah. Well, this is gonna sound really weird, but apparently, like I might have said this before. There's, I know there's an animal. It's like a, I don't know. It's a shrimp. It's really small. I think it's called a peacock shrimp or something. It's very, very small. But anyway, it's got kind of like how flies' eyes are, will like look really weird. It's similar to
Yeah,
that, and it sees the world through however many. I think it's like 12 different color receptacles, whereas human beings only see the world through three, I believe it is, or four maybe color receptacles. So everything we see, every color, every light, everything, it's just a variation of those colors is what we can see. But
it's
it,
crazy.
yeah, so it could be very well something like that. Like, how they say we don't use, or we only use a percentage of our brain. There could be something that we could tap into that we could see these colors or something. We could see things going on around us. Maybe we talked about dimensions before in
I was
Turd
just
Talks
gonna
here,
say that
and
dimensions.
maybe there's like dimensions like overlapping us going on all at once that their frequencies or whatever are in these colors that we just can't see, and vice versa. They can't see our colors.
Yeah, because I mean, I've told you can well, mom's in the chat, Kimberly. I've
Hello,
told
Kim.
her that experience
Hmm.
of my mom. It's the only time I've seen her in the colors. I'm like, can't. It's like think about Fortnite. All them colors you see on that game, and
Portals,
I've
Jackie Bird.
never seen I've never seen these colors before,
Hmm.
ever. And they were, what's the word? Not not majestic,
Magnificent.
not metallic either. There's another word I can't see. It's the only word I can explain it. But I remember my mom being so young and beautiful, and she was healthy.
Hmm.
She had really long hair. My mom was mixed with Indian and African American, and she had this really long, beautiful Indian dark hair,
Hmm.
and it was long again, and she was young and healthy. But I'll never forget the colors that illuminating. Is that the word? Like
Hmm. Could be.
they were just. It's interesting you talk about that shrimp because I've never, and I can't even explain what they look like. I can't even.
Mm.
But if you get to heaven, because I know that's where she's at, or she's about, in a place with Jesus to get to heaven. If that's what the colors are like, oh my goodness, I couldn't imagine. Like it makes sense. Like it says in the Bible that the streets are made of gold.
Mm.
And if the streets are gold and the colors that I see, like I can't wait to see this. I mean, I can. Lord, don't take me before my time. But man, it makes you think like, what if our brain only works so much? Like, what are we going to eventually see? Like,
Mm.
we're going to go somewhere. You have your beliefs, I have mine. We're going to go
Hmm.
somewhere. Our souls, our spirits, it's going to go somewhere. And this ain't nothing. Like, this is nothing compared to what the Creator has in store for us to experience.
Hmm. Yeah, I think in a sense, yeah, it could be a little combination of everything all in one. Like maybe if you don't do so great the first go around, maybe you have a second go, and maybe you got to get it right to ascend, if you want to say, to a different. Because realistically, that's what you have to do if you want to go to heaven or a different higher plane of consciousness, whatever you want to say. You have to ascend to get there.
Yes.
So.
And the way that, I don't know, I think about like the Garden of Eden
Mhm.
and like how Jesus created the earth and the universe and the galaxies and all this other stuff. And when I look at the stars, when I look at the solar system, when I look at the human body, when I look at when a child at conception, the moment of conception, when I look at fingerprints, I just, you can't tell me there's not a creator. Somebody perfectly mathematically created this and created science to go with it. Like when you look at the stars, like the only other time, because I've never really traveled anywhere, but my husband took me to Florida on vacation last
Okay.
year.
Nice.
And I'll never forget, maybe I'm a dork. I remember the first time we pulled up and I stepped out the car. Now, we had a private, huge mansion on a private beach. So it's right there. And I could smell the salt, but I remember looking at the ocean, this blue, sky blue ocean, and remember like feeling so small. Like,
Mm.
have you ever seen the ocean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I live by the
Do
ocean
you
for
ever
sure.
remember that moment standing there and you're like, I'm really little?
Yeah. I mean, for sure, especially when you're in a boat and you're out in the ocean. I mean, it's crazy.
I've never done that yet. What's that
Yeah.
like?
It's not very
Is it
fun.
scary?
It's
It's
extremely
scary, ain't it?
it's extremely scary, and I have a fear of the ocean. I don't know exactly what kind of phobia, because there's a phobia for everything, but there's got to be a phobia for the ocean or open water, or whatever you want to say. I've done it over a lake. I've done it over a stretch of the ocean. It wasn't like too far out. We went fishing, but yeah, it was quite scary to be honest.
We have the same issue. Like,
Like I have a fear, like, and a respect for the ocean. Like when you're um let's say, okay, so there's a few different aspects. Like, I mean, when you're on a boat at night and you're surrounded by the ocean, you just feel this abyss feeling because
ugh,
it's so dark,
ugh, I don't like it.
and it's an unknown. And even just the ocean in general, like even just to stare at the ocean and when you're surrounded by it, it's just the unknown abyss. Like what's down there? Like, you know, there's all these there's all these threats down there in a sense of like different things that'll get you. Um, the fact that you can, you could drown down there. There's all these different things going on that have to do with the ocean.
I'm just, I respect
You could end up in the
I
ocean.
respect
You
the
could.
ocean, and I
Mm.
don't belong out there. Like,
No, we really don't, because you could end up in the ocean starved to death or die of thirst in the middle of the ocean. Like that's what gets you, you know? Like it's crazy.
and like,
There's worse
could you
ways, but
imagine the torture of being stranded on like this float in the ocean?
mm,
Sun is beaming on you, cooking you,
right. That's the kind of
and you're
thing.
surrounded by water that you can't drink.
Right. You can't. There's nothing you can do. Like you drink that, you're gonna die faster. You're just
This
gonna be
took a
sick.
wild turn, so we're never
Mm.
going on a fishing trip.
We're not gonna go
Clearly,
on it. No, so let's just move on. We're gonna move on to let's talk about solar flares a little bit. So I got a little one we're gonna pull up, then we're gonna talk a bit, okay?
what's a solar flare?
Well, we're gonna pull it up here on
Oh,
wide
okay.
the thing here. How come I can't hear it? Do I have it muted? Yes. Here we go. Solar flares, guys.
Huge loops of magnetic energy arc out over the sunspots. Twisted and unstable, desperate to spew their energy, they create a magnetic bomb primed to explode.
And so if one magnetic field with stored energy sees another magnetic field, those two look at each other and say, hey,
You need to
if we
turn it up a
connect,
little
we can
bit.
get rid of a lot of energy. They do so. They reconnect. Wow.
It's a huge explosion, and we call it a solar flare. And this can be equivalent to millions of nuclear weapons exploding simultaneously.
Solar flares erupt outwards into space at up to 4.5 million miles an hour, releasing massive amounts of energy.
Yeah.
Boom. Just like that. That's the solar flare, Brittany.
That's
So
scary.
it is scary when you think about it because, like you say, they're just unpredictable. Unpredictable, right?
Like, because you got me looking at stuff, and now they're saying there's a risk of the
Risk.
strongest solar flare.
It could happen. Like it's just like freaking nature, unpredictability, Mother Nature as well.
So they're saying it's like a nuclear type of thing. So if a solar flare actually reaches the lowest levels of our atmosphere, is it going to be like radiation type of thing?
Oh yeah, it would be. It would be for sure.
So a nuclear weapon is a human built solar flare? Technically?
Not necessarily. Well, like not necessarily. What's going on, like with the sun, like how it works and stuff. That's just like think of like what we do, and that's like times a million, times a billion, times a crazy number you can't even think of. What's going on up there, right?
Right.
So when that a solar flare goes off, it's just so unpredictable. Like it's hard to say. Like it could wipe out our atmosphere. It could come through the atmosphere. Our atmosphere right now is not obviously doing that great. Once upon a
No,
time,
but
it was a
you're
lot
making me
thicker.
not want to go swimming. I don't want to look at the sun. I don't
Mhm.
like.
Well, like how I think it was Brian was saying the other day about the red tide down there in Florida, different things like this. Like that's just from pollution and different stuff like this as well. So think of how bad it would get with, you know,
Think about how bad it's gonna get
they
if they
say,
release all them satellites or whatever.
well, they say if like a weapon, like a WMD was to go off or whatever, like, we'd all be toast basically. And that's on a scale of, you know, percentage of 1 millionth or 1 billionth of what a solar flare could do. Um, you know, so realistically, it could be something like out of nowhere, everything's just gone, like evaporated.
I mean,
It's
God
hard to
said
really
he'd
say.
never flood the world again, but he didn't say he wouldn't set it on fire.
Hmm. And that is goes along with the Armageddon supposed to be fire, is it not?
So, folks, forget the SUN sunscreen. You need the capital SON sunscreen.
Yeah, you need to get some. I don't know
You need
what you
some
need.
Jesus at this point, because that's all we're gonna, hide in.
Yeah, amen.
Amen.
Yeah, right, sure.
Well, I was helping a friend out, and one evening we were standing in Kroger parking lot, and just been really digging in the Word of God and just experiencing a lot of things. And I remember, of course, he's a fellow believer in Jesus Christ, like me, and believing in there will be a rapture and there will be this and the second coming of Jesus Christ. And I remember his back was turned to what I saw, and I've seen a shooting star. I've seen, things like that, or little meteor showers, but what I saw was so big. And it was like this turquoise, green, orange colors shoot down like it was falling. It wasn't shooting, it was falling in the sky. It's pitch black. And it was the biggest thing I've ever seen. I thought it's going to hit Earth as far as I could see it. I remember pointing up at the sky, going, oh, like that, like I couldn't speak. I remember he turned around and grabbed his chest, and I was like, what? He's like, I thought Jesus was coming because of the look on my face, but I've never seen, I mean, I don't know. I mean, of course, it's a meteor or something,
Mhm.
but or it could be that Joe Dirt thing, the poop thing from the airplane.
Well, you could have been seeing something that was like flying past the Earth, but you just look from your vantage points, it looked like it was coming right at you.
No, it was on fire, like dropping down.
Hmm.
It was the biggest, like, it looked like a comet was falling.
Hmm.
And he turned around and seen the end of it. He was like, oh my gosh. And I was like, you should have seen it when it first, I just couldn't speak. I was just like, what am I seeing? This thing is huge. Like, if you stick your thumb out and you look at the size of your thumb, you stick it away from your face, the size of my thumbnail, that's how big it was just falling. I was like, what is that?
Unreal.
Mom said it's a ray gun. Has anybody in the chat ever experienced any of these things? Nobody's talking. We want to know.
Need to know your experiences, guys. Let us know.
We need to know if you've seen it. Tell me, girl,
but
have you seen it?
Seen it? We're moving on to talk about what you said, fallen object. Aliens. Could it have been? It's hard to say. Like now, it might could have been.
Do I agree? Do I believe in aliens? Yes. Do I believe they're what the world thinks they are, or what the government's trying to push what they are? No.
No.
I believe they are fallen angels. That's what I believe. And the whole deception is because remember, it used to be like hush hush. Now all of a sudden, everybody's like, the government's like, yeah. Did you see that 2 aliens that Mexico claimed to have?
No, I didn't see that, but yeah.
You have to look it up.
Okay.
I'm like, oh, come on, man. Like,
yeah, we've seen some bad stuff over the years.
Yeah, it's bad. They're like, yeah, these are our aliens that we got.
No way.
It looks like a kid has put clay model and designed it.
Claymation?
The claymation. Claymation.
Claymation aliens? It's unreal.
It's funny. Like, I remember looking at it and they're all standing by it, taking pictures. This is the Mexico government. And I'm like, really? That's not even remotely close to convincing one human being.
Hang on one sec.
Exactly, Kimberly. I feel like when I say mom, nobody knows who it is. Where'd everybody go? It's an alien abduction. No, it's not. It's called the rapture. Repent. Suri. I just want to let you know, Musty, if I ever disappear,
Yes.
he wasn't an alien.
Okay, I try not to. I'll try to. What will I do? Shite, I don't even know what I'll do. But I'll remember you always. It'll be in my thoughts and prayers.
Oh, you ain't gotta pray for me.
There was something I heard.
There was
something I heard the other day though. It kind of was a good one. And I can't remember what it was on. I was watching something and it was something somebody said. They said, we're all just pieces of a star. So the star blew up, and then if you want to believe in the Big Bang or whatever, what have you. So everything that came from that, it's all just pieces of that star. So life came from that. And if you want to say so, in a sense, and that doesn't have to take away from um, idea of a god or whatever. God could have been this star. Because what I like to think of God or whatever as is God is in my mind everything good and light and all that. And then there's
Well, God is spirit.
mm,
And I do believe in the Big Bang Theory.
but
I
like I
believe
say,
God
everything
said
that's
bang.
yeah, but everything that's like everything's made up of atoms. There's just like say we have a
Right.
consciousness to us. Like why doesn't a doll that we've created, which like we're a meat suit basically, we're biological, but a doll's made up of whatever. If you wanted to make it a meat suit, you could. It doesn't necessarily have to be.
What's it missing?
What's it missing exactly, right?
Where's its soul?
Hmm.
Where's its,
Yeah.
that's why I don't have all the answers. I can only use my brain so much too. But I've seen too much of God to know that he's real. I've experienced way too much of the goodness
Mm.
of him to just be like, no, well, we're just here. Like here's my thing. If you really, really, really want to know if there's a one true God that's living, you have to take the time, do the research, and seek him. And I promise you, you will find him because he's very much real. That's the thing that people don't want to do. They don't want to seek, so they just come up with this or come up with that. And it makes me sad because I'm like, you're missing out on so much more. Like, I see, like, I'm gonna call Richie out. One of Richie's biggest fear is dying.
Mm-hmm.
He's terrified of it. I don't want to die. 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 And I tell him all the time, you don't want to die because you don't know where you're going. He's like, exactly. To not have that fear, if he would take time and seek God, you would understand that this carnal flesh body is going to die unless you are one that is lucky to get raptured. It's going to die. But who you are, your soul's not. Because God says, I knew you before you were in your mother's womb. If you knew me before I was in any type of fleshly body, then how'd you know me? Because I was spirit. But, I don't try to push God or Jesus on nobody, but if you just knew what he's done for me, and if you knew how real he was, it's like I tell people, if you had the cure for some uncurable disease, but say I had the cure, how unloving is it that you and I both have this diagnosis, but I have the cure? How mean is it for me not to tell you about it? That's selfish.
Well, in a sense,
saying?
well, like think of it this way: if you have the cure, it's only a one dose scenario. We both have this, like you said. Either way, like what would end up happening would be there'd be a greed scenario. There would be a scenario where you both don't take it. There'd be a scenario like
No, in this scenario, it is an unlimited supply.
Okay.
Of the blood of Jesus Christ. That is the cure.
Okay,
that's how I want you to look at it.
Sorry.
But don't say this, don't do that, don't tell that. Oh, she's talking about Jesus again. Because I've been in places where everybody else has been. I'm carnal. I've depression. the yourself, I'm talking about, I don't want to say the word,
Mm.
anxiety, death, loss, abuse, being poor, whatever it is, infirmity, sickness, I've dealt with it. And the only thing that's got me through is Jesus Christ and what he's done on the cross for me, and how good of a Father we have that loves us. I'm going to be, what you don't understand is when I stand before God, he's going to look at me and go, did you talk about my son? Did you tell every single person you knew who I am? And if I say, well, no, I didn't want to offend nobody, I didn't want to sound like I was pushing, your blood is on my hands, and I'm not going to hell for none of you. It ain't happening. I'm going to tell you till I can't speak no more and talk about the goodness of God. And it's like the world is, all these dimensions and portals and all these things we talk about. People don't want to hear it. People, you mention the name of Jesus and you see demons manifest in people, and they get so angry and they end up giving up. And I can't sit here and not say nothing. Yes, do I believe, like I said, ghosts, but I call them something else? Do I believe in aliens? Yes, but I think there's something else. Do I believe in the afterlife? Yes, I believe there is one afterlife, and it is eternity. I'm not saying we can't sit down and have discussions. Do I know everything? No, but what I do know is that Jesus Christ is half God, half human, came to this earth to be the sacrificial lamb for us so that we can get back to God. That was the original plan until the serpent and Adam and Eve and the fall of man. And in these last days, Musty, as I'm telling you, these last days, it's about to get wild, brother. Like the things we're going to hear, the things that's on the TV. It says in the Bible, what's good will be bad and what's bad will be good. And you're already seeing it. Like when the C word was going around. You can't meet up with your family and have Thanksgiving. But all these other people can go riot and burn down cities. At least that's what was going on here in America.
Yeah.
Hundreds of them can gather to do, wickedness that can do and tear down communities and burn them down. But don't you sit at your table with your family and eat dinner. That's what's good will be bad and what's bad will be good. I don't care. I don't care anymore.
Are we gonna look up, or we got about, I don't know, 7 minutes left or so, but how long is this video I gotta pull up for us? Oh, it's quite long actually. We'll skip through it a little bit. Top 200 mythological creatures. How do you think about going through some of that there, Brittany?
What is it?
Mythological creatures. We'll switch it up.
Yeah, let's go.
Switch it up.
Let's start off with the Nephilim.
Well, I got a video here I'm going to pull up.
All right, go ahead.
This is the freedom to bank with us anytime, anywhere. Download the app today.
SGU put me in the best position to become a doctor, to really feel that sense of community from the very second that we...
Hello everybody. Mythical creatures have a huge part in worldwide mythologies, but just some of them are known to the mainstream world. That's why I decided to create the most complete list of creatures and monsters on YouTube. Enjoy. Water Leaper. The Water Leaper is an evil creature from Welsh folklore that lived in swamps and ponds. It is described as a giant frog with a bat's wings instead of forelegs, no hind legs, and a long, lizard-like tail with a stinger at the end. It jumps across the water using its wings, hence its name. It was blamed for problems ranging from snapping fishing lines to eating livestock or even fishermen. Samka. Samka is a character in Romanian legends a very ugly and scary evil spirit. She most commonly takes the appearance of a naked woman, with dried out breasts that touch the ground, with small eyes that shine as brightly as the stars, and iron hands and long nails sharp as knitting needles. She appears to children under the age of 4, who are so frightened that they become sick immediately. Monoceros. The Monoceros is a legendary animal from Greek mythology with only one horn and is related to the unicorn. It was believed that the beast was invincible and that all its strength lied in its horn. Boi Tui. Boi Tui is one of the 7 legendary monsters of the Guarani mythology. He has the form of an enormous serpent with a huge parrot head and a huge beak. He also has a red, forked tongue the colour of blood. He is considered
This guy's
the
going pretty
protector
quick.
of
I'm gonna
aquatic
sit
animals
through
and the
till
wetlands.
way about here.
A Senekiwaka
Well, look at this, and
A
now
Seneki-
wacky.
form. They are
Here we are,
principally
we're about halfway
depicted in
through.
3 forms. Wholly human, with snakes on their heads and necks, common serpents, or as half human, half snake. They bring rain, and thus fertility and prosperity, and are the guardians of treasure, but are also able to cause natural disasters such as floods and drought. Dryad. A dryad is a tree nymph or tree spirit in Greek mythology. They were normally considered to be very shy creatures, except around the goddess Artemis, who was known to be a friend to most nymphs. Dryad had the mutant ability to communicate with plants, much like a telepath can with people, which allowed her to manipulate plant life. Ghoul. A ghoul is a demon-like being or monstrous humanoid originating in pre-Islamic Arabian religion, associated with graveyards and consuming human flesh. In modern fiction, the term has often been used for a certain kind of undead monster. Elves. An elf is a type of humanoid supernatural being in North Germanic mythology and folklore. In medieval Germanic-speaking cultures, elves generally seem to have been thought of as beings with magical powers and supernatural beauty. Male elves were described as looking like little old men, though elf maidens were invariably young and beautiful. Like men of the time, elves lived in kingdoms found in forests, meadows, or hollowed-out tree trunks. Typhon. Typhon is the deadliest monster of Greek mythology. It possesses the strongest powers at its disposal, like controlling earth and wind, fire, poison, and perhaps the power of killing deities, making him a serious threat and a force to be reckoned with. He was depicted as a huge winged monster whose head brushed the stars, human in form above the waist, with snake coils below, and fire flashing from his eyes. In size and strength, he surpassed all the offspring of Earth. Typhon and his mate Echidna were the progenitors of many famous monsters. Bogeyman. The bogeyman is a type of mythic creature used by adults to frighten children into good behaviour. Bogeymen have no specific appearance, and conceptions vary drastically by household
Boogeyman.
culture, but they are most commonly depicted as masculine
The
or
bogey.
androgynous monsters
If
that
he
punish
likes to go
children
golfing.
for misbehaving.
Yeah, he couldn't get a par.
Duende. A duende is a humanoid figure of folklore, with variations from Iberian, Ibero-American and Filipino cultures, comparable to dwarves, gnomes or leprechauns. These creatures live in the forest in a hut.
With innovative technology like remote smart parking assist, the Kia Niro EV.
All these are demons.
No.
There's religions, or
stunning as always. The man, the
they look at them
Differently or whatever. Yeah.
differently, but I mean,
Yeah, I
they're all
understand.
demonic. You know what I'm saying?
Hut, usually described as standing on
Like
chicken
when
legs.
we do deliverance,
One of
which
its
is,
heads, two
you know,
grow
healing
instead.
or the casting of
In the
demons out.
canonical Hydra
And
myth,
these things,
the
you know,
monster
you
is
don't want them to
killed by
talk too long.
Hercules
We're not here
as
to
the
have a
second of
conversation.
his
We don't
12 labors.
negotiate.
The
We're to
largest
confront
of the
and you gotta
Hydra's
go.
heads is immortal
But
and cannot
when
be
they
damaged
talk,
by conventional
you'd be
weapons.
surprised like how
The
much
only
they
way
talk
Hercules
about
was
this
able
stuff.
to kill this head was to cut it
like,
off with a golden
where
sword,
they come from,
gifted to
or
him by Athena.
so and so believes in
Grim
this and
Reaper.
wears a certain necklace of
The Grim Reaper
this
is a
Greek
spectral
mythology
entity
thing,
that is
and
said to be the
and
sentient
you're like, well, where'd you
manifestation
come
of death
from? I came
itself.
from that piece of jewelry that's been in this piece of
Although the
family.
image has
That's the
changed
legal
slightly
right,
over the
and
centuries, the
it's
Grim
wild.
Reaper is almost
And
always
it's just
shown
like,
in a large
if you really
black
want
cloak,
to know the
a
truth,
skeletal
God will
face
show
and
you.
hands, glowing eyes, and a scythe.
Like the Grim Reaper and all that stuff. You're like, oh,
Chimera.
I've seen the Grim Reaper.
The
Yeah, I know you
Chimera,
did.
according to Greek mythology, was a monstrous hybrid
This one.
creature composed of different animal parts.
What, the
It is usually
Chimera?
depicted as a
Chimera.
lion with the head of a
That's
goat
different.
protruding from its back and a tail
Isn't that a
like
gun
end
off
with a snake's
Warzone?
head. The Chimera was reputed to be near
Sounds like it.
invincible, for she had
Yeah,
the
it's the
strength of a
Chimera.
lion,
Look at,
the
see?
cunning of a goat, and the venom of a snake. But this monster's most unusual and deadly weapon, by far, was her ability to breathe fire. The fire spewed out from the goat's head and devastated any challengers who approached the beast. Banshee. The Banshee is a
None
female
of
spirit
these have
in
been
Irish
like,
folklore
oh, this one
who
does
heralds
this,
the
this
death
one
of a
does
family
that.
member, usually by
It's all
wailing,
like,
shrieking, or keening. Sometimes
like,
she
you
has
know,
long
like,
streaming
it's
hair
all, it's
and
all,
wears
dude,
a
it all
grey
comes
cloak
from the
over a
same
green
thing,
dress,
evil.
and her eyes are red from
You can call it
continual
demon, you can
weeping.
call it this name, you can call it that name.
Phoenix. The
You can
phoenix
put
is an
lipstick on a
immortal
pig, but
bird
pig's still
associated
pig.
with Greek
It's
mythology
just pig with
that
lipstick.
cyclically regenerates or is otherwise born again. Associated with the sun, a phoenix obtains new life by arising from the ashes of its predecessor. Some legends say that it dies in a show of flames and combustion,
We'll get down to the top
while others say it simply
few here, and
dies
then
and
we'll
decomposes before
break
being
it down
born
a little
again.
more.
Frankenstein. Frankenstein is an English fictional character who first appeared in Mary Shelley's 1818 novel Frankenstein, or The Modern Prometheus. Shelley's title thus compares the monster's creator, Victor Frankenstein, to the mythological character Prometheus, who fashioned humans out of clay and gave them fire. In Shelley's Gothic story, Victor Frankenstein builds the creature in his laboratory through an ambiguous method based on a scientific principle he discovered. Shelley describes the monster as 8 feet tall and terribly hideous, but emotional. Trolls. A troll is a being in Scandinavian folklore, including Norse mythology. In Old Norse sources, beings described as trolls dwell in isolated areas of rocks,
These are different
mountains,
types of trolls,
or
not the
caves,
trolls off
live
Warzone.
together in small family units, and
These
are
are
rarely
trolls, these are
helpful
real
to human
trolls.
beings. Depending on the source, their appearance varies greatly. Trolls may be ugly and slow-witted, or look and behave exactly like human beings, with no particularly grotesque characteristics about them. Chupacabra. The Chupacabra is a legendary creature in the folklore of parts of the Americas, with its first purported sightings reported in Puerto Rico in 1995. The name comes from the animal's reported vampirism. The Chupacabra is said to attack and drink the blood of livestock,
Tell me that ain't demon
including
looking
goats.
like.
Its name means in Spanish, goat sucker. Leviathan. The Leviathan is a sea serpent noted in theology and mythology. It is referenced in several books
Yeah,
of the Hebrew
that,
Bible,
guess what? That's in the
including
Bible.
Psalms,
Leviathan is?
Job, the Book of Isaiah, the
Leviathan,
Book of
Leviathan
Amos,
and
and,
Behemoth
according to some translations, the Book of
and
Jonah.
Genesis.
It is also mentioned in the Book of Enoch. The Leviathan is often
Leviathan
an
has a
embodiment of chaos
hook.
and threatening to eat the damned after
Yep,
life.
see? It's even an Enoch.
In the end,
Like, it all
it is
comes from there.
annihilated. Mermaid. In folklore, a mermaid is an aquatic creature with the head and upper body of a female human and the tail of a fish.
We've
Mermaids
casted out
appear in the
spirit,
folklore of many
the,
cultures
mermaid
worldwide, including
spirits,
Europe, Asia,
the
and
marine
Africa.
spirits.
At a first glance, you could say that it is the same creature I told you about
They
earlier,
they
the
they were
siren.
real.
They practically look the same, but mermaids are typically harmless, while sirens are evil and are found only in Greek mythology. Leprechaun. A leprechaun is a diminutive supernatural being in Irish folklore, classed by some as a type of solitary fairy. They are usually depicted as little bearded men wearing a coat and a hat who partake in mischief. In later times, they have been depicted as shoemakers who have a hidden pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. If ever captured by a human, the leprechaun has the magical power to grant wishes in exchange for their release. Zombie. A zombie is a mythological undead corporeal revenant created through the reanimation of a corpse. The term comes from Haitian folklore, in which a zombie is a dead body reanimated through various methods, most commonly magic like voodoo. Modern media depictions of the reanimation of the dead often do not involve magic, but rather science-fictional methods such as carriers, radiation, mental diseases, vectors, pathogens, parasites, and scientific accidents, etc. Wendigo. The Wendigo is a creature found in the mythology of the Algonquin people, being described as a large canine beast that has enormous pleasure from killing and devouring humans. These beings are the appearance of excess and greed, and according to the legend, any human being who commits an act of cannibalism will turn into a Wendigo. Werewolf. In folklore, a werewolf is a human with the ability to shapeshift into a wolf, or some kind of wolf, either purposely or after being placed under a curse or affliction, often a bite or scratch from another werewolf, with the transformations occurring on the night of a full moon. The appearance of a werewolf in its animal form varies from culture to culture, though it is most commonly portrayed as being indistinguishable from ordinary wolves, save from the fact it has no tail, is often larger, and retains human eyes and a voice. Kraken. The Kraken is a legendary sea monster of enormous size said to appear off the coasts of Norway.
Oh, do we believe in werewolves? It's hard to say.
The Kraken!
In many cases, the arms reach as high as the top of the ship's main mast.
The Kraken, this could have been a real thing, because I mean, look at how big look at how big the octopuses are in the ocean.
Gremlin.
Gremlin, come on now.
Gremlin is a mischievous folkloric creature that causes malfunctions in aircraft or other machinery. Depictions of these creatures vary. Often, they are described or depicted as animals with spiky backs, large, strange eyes, and small, clawed frames featuring sharp teeth. Their intelligence and strength also vary, and they are all very mischievous, dangerously violent, and crazily fun-loving. They were believed to have brought down hundreds of planes in World War II. Vampire. A vampire is a creature from folklore that subsists by feeding on the vital essence.
I watched a movie about that. I just realized that. With
Their
the
origins
in
are
World War
ancient.
II.
Even in Egyptian mythology, such beings are depicted.
It's actually a really good movie.
But they became popular due to Romanian folklore. Here, the vampires are undead creatures that often visited loved ones and caused mischief or deaths in the neighbourhoods they inhabited while they were alive. Vampires are typically said to be of pale skin and range in appearance from grotesque to preternaturally beautiful, depending on the tale. Another frequently cited physical characteristic is the inability to cast a reflection or shadow, which often translates into an inability to be photographed or recorded on film. They are immortal and have unnatural strength and speed. They have the ability to control animals, and they can read another person's thoughts, communicate with them mentally, and influence them. They can only be killed with a wooden stake to the heart or by direct sunlight. Unicorn.
Unicorn.
The unicorn is a legendary creature that has been described since antiquity as a beast with a single, large, pointed, spiraling horn projecting from its forehead. Most often, a unicorn is depicted as a white horse with a single horn growing from its forehead. Unicorns are thought to be good and pure creatures with magical powers. Their horns have powers to heal wounds and sickness and to neutralize poison. Unicorns also have super speed and super strength. Fairy.
Didn't we already have fairies?
Fairy
Oh
is
no,
a
we had
type of
elves.
mythical being or legendary creature found
We
in
already
the
had
folklore
elves.
of multiple European cultures.
I wonder what number
Form of
one's
spirit
gonna be.
is
I'm
often
wondering.
described as metaphysical and
What's it gonna be, chat?
What's number one going to be,
Fairies
chat?
are generally described as human in appearance and having magical powers.
Bigfoot?
Diminutive fairies of various
Could
kinds
be.
have been reported through centuries, ranging from quite tiny to the size of a human. Various folk theories about the origins of fairies
The Loch
include
Ness
casting
Monster?
them either as demoted angels or demons in a Christian tradition, as deities in pagan belief systems, as spirits of the dead, as prehistoric
Jackie
precursors
says
to humans,
Pegasus.
or as spirits of nature. Dragon.
Dragon.
The most popular legendary creature of all is the dragon, mainly because it is found in all major mythologies, but also the fact that they have dinosaur-like
Surprised I
features,
didn't get that
which
one.
led our imagination to believe that they were once real. A dragon
You know,
is
the
usually
dragons in
represented as a
Revelation
huge,
in the Bible?
bat-winged, fire-breathing, scaly lizard or snake with a barbed tail. Dragons in Eastern cultures are usually depicted as wingless, four-legged, serpentine creatures. All the dragons
My
are
favorite,
extremely
I
powerful,
was reading that.
strong,
I got a
and
chick,
intelligent
right?
creatures.
But in
Their
my,
hard scales
met in
cannot
the
be easily
military.
pierced by swords,
She's a
arrows,
witch.
and other weaponry.
And
Some
like,
dragons also
she's
have deadly
always like
poisons
trying
in
to
their
get me to
teeth
like
and claws.
join the other side. And
That's all,
I would
folks.
tell her like,
I hope you have learned
you
some
know,
more about the mythological creatures of our
Jesus is, you know, I see in the air, you know, when Jesus comes and gets me. And she always says that God is a female. What did she say? God is a female, and she's going to return back. Instead of it being Jesus, it's going to be with her female God on a dragon. And like, believes this.
Crazy.
Dragons are real.
Dragons could be. I mean, like the thing about dragons is, like you said, they're in every, all over the world. Like when you have something that's depicted in ancient culture all over the different parts of the world that had realistically no way of connecting with each other. In a sense, how's that not real? It's
Right.
kind of hard to, not believe that. Because the thing is we can come up with fiction, in a sense. Like people can think of things, but it has to have spurred from something. You can't just pull like anything out of thin air, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Brian says you can look it up. The musty dragon.
Musty dragon found in
China.
Dragon found in China. I'll look it up, Justy.
The
Brian.
musty. You call him musty.
I'll look up the musty dragon. Is what I meant
I've
to say,
never
Brian.
called anybody my own name.
I did call Brian musty. Yes. Quite now. I did that. But we are running a little over an hour, so we'll have to save the rest for the next talks, the nether talks. This episode 7 already. 7 episodes in, Brit. Chat. Much love to y'all. Any final words of wisdom you want to embellish upon chat right now, Brittany, before we end?
There's a lot of things in the supernatural realm that are very, very much real. And sometimes we can't see them with our physical eyes, but, your spiritual eyes. Like Elijah in the Bible and like his servant, they were inside and they were leaving. They were the last two in the village. And the servant looked outside and seen the enemy coming towards him. And Elijah's just like chilling, like everything's okay. And the servant's freaking out, and he prays to the Lord. He says, let him see with his spiritual eyes, remove the scale from his eyes, basically. Well, when he looked out, all of a sudden he seen angels with chariots on fire, and there was more of them than they were of the enemy. So like he found peace, like, oh, okay, because it's a spiritual battle going on. So just be careful what you watch, be careful what you entertain, be careful. You might not think it's affecting you, you might not think it's like, watching certain witchcraft stuff or monster movies or, participating in Halloween. Oh, it's just a costume and candy. You have to be careful because these things are real, and they believe in you even though you don't believe in them. So just be careful. Be careful what you entertain. Be careful what you
For
let
sure,
your
Brittany.
children watch, you know? Because everything we just looked at did not look cool to me.
No,
Like,
not cool.
it was all
not
like,
cool.
oh, like go find that in a dark alley and tell me that
No.
was awesome.
Yeah, that wasn't
So they
gonna
should
be
tell you
great.
something.
Great, very great. All right, well, God bless y'all. And this has been, once again, episode 7, Turd Talks
Jesus loves you.
with Musty and Brittany.